Mars was never a dead planet. It only became one. Long before its red deserts and frozen silence, something lived there. Something that breathed, built, and dreamed, just like us. But if life once thrived on Mars, what happened to it? Why does every piece of evidence we find seem to vanish, buried under layers of silence and denial? In 1976, NASA's Viking lander detected strange chemical reactions that looked almost biological. In 2014, Curiosity found traces of methane, the gas that, on Earth, is produced mostly by living things. And deep within the atmosphere, scientists discovered isotopes that some physicists claim could be the leftovers of a nuclear explosion millions of years ago. Coincidence? Or a story that was erased? Because here's what most people don't know. Mars once had rivers, oceans, a magnetic field, and even an atmosphere thick enough to breathe. It had everything our planet has, except time. Something ended it all. And maybe it wasn't nature. This is not just a story about a distant planet. It's a story about us, about what happens when a civilization grows too powerful, too curious, and too blind to see what's coming. Some scientists whisper that we didn't find Mars. We return to it, that humanity itself might be the last surviving memory of the red planet. So, what really happened to Mars? And what if the truth has been hidden in plain sight all along? Mars was never a dead planet. It only became one. Long before its red deserts turned cold and lifeless, this world was alive. It had rivers that shimmered under a warm sun, winds that carried the scent of rain, and perhaps even eyes that once looked up at our blue sky, wondering if they were alone. Today, all we see is dust, endless dunes, broken rocks, a wasteland frozen in time. But the truth is, Mars wasn't born this way. Something happened here, something catastrophic, that wiped out nearly every trace of what came before. NASA tells us that billions of years ago, Mars was once covered in oceans. We've seen the dried riverbeds, the deltas, the scars carved by flowing water. Curiosity, Perseverance, and even the old Viking missions all sent back the same whisper from that silent planet. This place was once alive. But if life was there, if Mars had everything Earth once did, why is it now nothing but a graveyard? And why do we keep finding fragments of a story no one wants to talk about? In 2014, methane was detected in the Martian atmosphere, a gas that, on Earth, comes mostly from living organisms. A few months later, the readings disappeared. Official reports called it a measurement error. In 2011, strange structures resembling glass tubes and domes were found in high-resolution satellite photos. They were dismissed as optical illusions. And in 2015, images of what looked like ancient ruins, geometric patterns buried beneath the sand, circulated online. NASA called them pareidolia, the human brain's trick of seeing patterns that aren't there. But what if they are there? What if the face on Mars, the ruins in Cydonia, the pyramids that line up with Orion's belt, aren't coincidences? What if they're the last remains of a civilization that once thrived, just like ours? Because buried in the Martian soil are traces of isotopes, xenon-129, in quantities that don't exist naturally. Some nuclear physicists, like Dr. John Brandenburg, have claimed these patterns are identical to the residue of nuclear explosions. He believes Mars was destroyed, not by time, but by war, a civilization wiped out in an instant, an entire world silenced by its own power. And when you look at the cratered plains and glassy sands of Mars, melted rock, fused into black glass, it starts to look eerily familiar, like a warning, a message across time. If that theory is true, then life on Mars didn't die. It escaped, maybe not as ships or signals, but as DNA drifting across space, finding a new home. Here, what if we are what's left of them? What if Earth isn't humanity's birthplace, but Mars's second chance? And maybe that's why we feel so drawn to it. Why we keep sending rovers, satellites, and now even dreams of colonization. Maybe we're not exploring another world. Maybe we're going home. Because the truth about Mars has never been about what we find there, it's about what we're remembering. So the question isn't just what happened to Mars, it's whether we're repeating it. If Mars once had life, intelligent life, then somewhere there must be proof. And maybe we've already found it. Over the last 4 decades, every mission to Mars has revealed something that doesn't fit the official story. traces of flowing water where none should exist, magnetized rocks that shouldn't be magnetized, images of shapes too precise, too structured to be random, and yet, every time these discoveries surface, they're retracted, renamed, or buried beneath scientific jargon. Unconfirmed, unverified. Geological formations, but to those who look closer, the pattern is undeniable. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 lander ran an experiment called the Labeled Release Test. Its goal? To detect metabolism, the chemical signature of life. The results came back positive. The soil reacted. It consumed nutrients and released gases the way living microbes do. But almost immediately, NASA dismissed it. They said, there must be another explanation. Decades later, one of the scientists behind the experiment, Dr. 𝘠𝘩𝘢𝘵𝑚 went public. He said, we found life on Mars in 1976. We just refused to believe it. Then, in 2001, orbiters captured images of dark streaks sliding down crater walls, like liquid water flowing in summer. For years, NASA called them illusions, artifacts, shadows, until 2015 when they admitted, yes, Mars has seasonal flows of briny liquid water. So the question became, if there's water, why no life? Maybe because life on Mars isn't gone. It's hidden. Some researchers believe that beneath the surface, protected from radiation, bacteria still sleep in the permafrost, waiting for warmth to return. Others go further, claiming that Mars once had forests, oceans, even cities that crumbled after a cataclysm. No one survived. In 2011, a strange object was photographed by the high-rise camera. It looked like a dome. Smooth, symmetrical, unlike anything geological. Officially, it was labeled a hill with unusual lighting. Unofficially, it became known as the Martian Dome. The same camera later captured what appeared to be entrance tunnels. Long, translucent structures resembling glass tubes stretching for miles. To geologists, they were lava tubes. To others, they were remnants of a civilization that learned to live underground when the surface became hostile. And maybe that's still where they are. Because here's the thing, Mars still sends out signals, low frequency, pulses, electromagnetic anomalies, things that shouldn't exist on a planet that's supposedly silent and dead. NASA has recorded mysterious magnetic fluctuations and seismic vibrations that don't match any known geological model. They say it's Marsquakes. But some theorists, including former defense scientists, suggest these are remnants of artificial systems deep below the crust. Maybe ancient reactors, maybe something even older. Then there's the xenon-129 mystery, the isotope scattered across the Martian atmosphere. It's a rare element on Earth, mostly found as a byproduct of nuclear fission. Dr. John Brandenburg, a plasma physicist who worked on nuclear defense research, noticed that Mars has the same radiation pattern as places on Earth hit by nuclear bombs. According to him, the northern plains show two massive hotspots, consistent with detonation sites. He believes a technologically advanced species once lived there, until it annihilated itself, and he calls that event the Martian extinction. Think about that for a second. If he's right, then Mars didn't die naturally. It was destroyed, maybe by its own hand. A world that reached too far, too fast. A civilization that unleashed something it couldn't control. And then, silence. A planet that once shone with oceans and light, now reduced to dust and echo. But the strangest part? Every time someone gets close to proving any of this, the trail goes cold. Photos disappear, links vanish, researchers are discredited, funding pulled. It's almost as if someone doesn't want us to know. Could it be that Mars isn't just another planet in our solar system, but a chapter of our own forgotten history? Because the more we learn, the more Mars feels familiar. Its canyons mirror our valleys. Its polar ice caps shimmer like ours. And its scars, its nuclear glass, its broken plains. They look like warnings written across its surface. A silent message from the past. This is what happens when you play with creation. So maybe, just maybe, Mars isn't a mystery at all. Maybe it's a memory. What if the greatest cover-up in human history isn't on Earth, but 225 million kilometers away? For decades, we've been told Mars is empty. A wasteland. A relic. But everything we found, every image, every anomaly, every trace of impossible radiation tells another story. A story of memory, a story of return. Let's start with something NASA never talks about in press releases: the Martian magnetosphere. Billions of years ago, Mars had a magnetic field even stronger than Earth's, a shield that kept its oceans and air intact. Then, suddenly, it collapsed. Not gradually, abruptly. In geologic terms, it was instant. No one knows why. Some scientists blame a core shutdown. Others whisper it could have been an external force. Something powerful, enough to strip away the entire atmosphere in hours. An explosion? A weapon? Or something even more unearthly? Because buried beneath the chaos in the oldest Martian rocks lies a layer of glass. Vitrified soil, melted by temperatures no natural event could produce except a nuclear flash. But here's what's even stranger. These layers aren't random. They form rings, like impact zones, as if the planet was hit from the inside out. And deep inside those zones, near the Cydonia region, the same place where the face on Mars was found, the terrain pulses with magnetic energy that shouldn't exist on a dead planet, as if something beneath the surface is still alive. NASA's InSight lander recorded quakes that didn't match any geological pattern. They came in perfect intervals, rhythmic, almost like machinery echoing through the crust. Every few weeks, a low tremor, then silence, then again. It's as if something sleeps under the dust, and sometimes it breathes. Now here's where it gets even more disturbing. When early telescopes studied Mars, observers like 𝘕𝑜𝘰𝘦𝐴 and Percival Lowell reported seeing canals, straight lines stretching for hundreds of miles. They were dismissed as optical illusions. But in the 1970s, new orbital scans confirmed those linear ridges and grooves actually exist, not as water channels, but as massive scarred trenches, perfectly parallel, carved with precision across vast plains. They weren't random, they were built. By who or by what? Maybe the answer isn't out there. Maybe it's right here, inside us. Because ancient cultures across Earth, from Egypt to Sumeria, and from the Hopi to the Dogon, all tell stories of red-skinned gods who fell from the sky and taught humanity the arts of civilization. They came from the heavens, from a dying world. They came from the red planet. And when you put the myths together, they all describe the same thing: a home lost to fire and a promise that one day their descendants would return. What if that promise was us? Think about it. Mars' day is almost the same length as Earth's, 24 hours and 37 minutes. Its axial tilt is nearly identical, meaning its seasons mirror ours. Its gravity is just light enough to allow smaller, more agile beings to evolve. And yet, everything about it feels designed, compatible, as if Earth was chosen to replace what Mars could no longer sustain. If a civilization truly escaped, whether through technology, migration, or genetic seeding, Earth would be the most natural refuge. A younger twin, a rebirth. Maybe that's why human DNA shows strange anomalies, fragments that don't fit our evolutionary timeline. Scientists call them genetic jumps, moments where evolution leaps ahead without explanation. But what if those jumps aren't random? What if they're memories, echoes of what we used to be when we were Martians? Because here's the hidden pattern. Every few million years, Mars aligns perfectly with Earth, a window where energy, radiation, even spores could transfer. Between the two, some scientists believe microbes traveled here on meteorites ejected from Mars after massive impacts. They call it panspermia, life spreading through space. But what if it wasn't an accident? What if it was intentional? A desperate attempt to survive the end of a world, a seed flung across the void. Us. And now, as we send our machines back to Mars, rovers crawling across the dust, orbiters mapping every inch, maybe it's not discovery driving us, maybe it's recognition. Somewhere deep inside, something ancient remembers. The shapes in the sand, the color of the sky at dusk, they feel familiar, don't they? Almost like deja vu, like home. Maybe that's why we keep looking up. Why we build rockets, dream of colonies, and stare at the night sky searching for something we can't quite name. It's not curiosity, it's memory. A deep, ancient ache. The longing to return home. Every mission to Mars feels less like exploration and more like remembrance. Each rover's camera lens captures not discovery, but déjà vu. The craters look like ruins we've seen before. The mountains like monuments carved by hands we once knew. And as our technology grows, the planet seems to call out louder, as if waiting for us to remember what we lost. But maybe we already have. Because if the story is true, if Mars once thrived, if a civilization flourished and fell, then the greatest mystery isn't how it died. It's why we're repeating it. Look around. Our world is warming, our oceans are shrinking, our atmosphere is thinning, molecule by molecule, the same pattern, billions of years apart. Mars shows us what happens when a world consumes itself, when power outgrows wisdom, when technology becomes a weapon instead of a tool. And maybe that's why we were sent here, not as conquerors, but as witnesses, to remember what went wrong and not make the same mistake twice. But history has a way of looping back, of testing whether we've learned or forgotten. The red planet may be silent, but silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes silence is what remains after a scream that lasted too long. And maybe somewhere beneath those sands, there's still a pulse, a whisper that says, "We were here before you," when curiosity sent back its final self-portrait. A lonely robot staring into the fading Martian light. Something about that image felt too human. Not a machine exploring a foreign world, but a soul remembering a home it lost long ago. Perhaps that's what Mars truly is. A mirror showing us what we were and what we might become. Every signal, every dust storm, every anomaly is a message. Don't forget, don't repeat. And maybe that's why the truth about Mars remains hidden, because to reveal it would mean revealing ourselves. And maybe humanity isn't ready for that yet. But soon, we will be. Because one day we won't just send machines, we'll go there ourselves, we'll touch the soil, walk the ancient plains, and see, with our own eyes, what really happened. And when that day comes, maybe we'll find out the most terrifying truth of all, that the ruins we uncover aren't alien, they're ours. So what really happened on Mars? And what if we're next? If you want to know more of the truth, subscribe.